Okay, so I posted a video the other day about the wind damage here to the solar array. Actually, the first video I posted this channel in quite some time, since I've been more focusing my YouTube efforts on my other channel, The Hermit Mechanic, but this seemed like it definitely belonged on the Earthship channel. So this is the damage I showed the other day about the wind damage here that was caused by apparently just a gust of wind that came through. I showed some pictures from my security camera on that last video showing when I think it happened, and it just broke the welds, which don't look like they were very substantial here. They look like they were pretty weak. So the Eco-Worthy tracker that I was using as a stationary mount that I had locked in place, so I wasn't really worried about the wind so much with it, because what I was really worried about with the wind was sort of this kind of mechanism down here getting damaged from the wind. But I had locked this thing down, so that wasn't really an issue. And instead of breaking that stuff, it just sheared off the top of the pole where the mount was. And you can see down here the mount itself where it had been welded to the top of that pole. Now the pole itself is still quite solid. It's still in cement at the bottom and still got the guy wires on it. You can see some of the mount here. Some of this mechanism is resting on one of these cables. And in fact, this is actually still making power. Yesterday, after I got up in the morning, the sun came up over the mountain, I looked at the input, and it was actually still putting out some power, actually quite a bit more than I expected, given that this panel in the middle is pretty much destroyed. So that kind of surprised me how much power it was putting out. So what the plan is today is to take this apart, get this middle panel out of here, and then make some kind of a mount that's going to be more stable, more solid in the wind, out of the remaining parts and maybe some other stuff that I've got on the property here. And we're going to put this together, hopefully utilizing this existing pole as an anchor point. I'm going to drill possibly some holes through this, one or more holes through this to anchor to. And of course, I haven't been using the electronics or the mechanism here for about a year for this thing. It's been just locked down as a static mount for my west facing array. And you can see I have the east facing array over here, and I just turned off the breaker for these for both of these, so they're not making any power right now, because I wanted to come out and actually disconnect power from this so I could start disassembling, and then I'll turn it back on for this one so we can pick up the east facing array again and start making power this morning. And then hopefully I'll have this set back up in time for the afternoon sun, so I can catch that afternoon sun. So this was originally a 600 watt array that I had pointed west, and this is a 400 watt array that I have pointed east. And the reason I went with the smaller array pointing east is because you probably can't see because of the sun, is the mountain is in the way of the east facing sun for a lot of the morning. So especially in the winter time, and right now it's not so big a deal. And actually I don't really need either of these in the summertime, because I make plenty of power all summer long. But that being said, I went with the 600 watt array facing my nice western exposure. You can see there's not much in the way in that direction. So so I used the larger array to face west, and frankly it's more important for me to hold on to that sun later in the day than it is for me to pick that sun up earlier. So that was why I pointed the 600 watt array towards the west rather than pointing it towards the east, and I went with the 400 watt array pointing east. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to have this as a 400 watt array, because these are 200 watt panels, and that means that with the one damaged one, we're going to be down to 400 watts on both arrays. So that means we're going to have 400 watts pointing east and 400 watts pointing west. So that's the plan today. Going to pull this apart, get all the panels off of this structure here and dispose of the middle one and put these two remaining good panels on the rack and point this west so that we'll have a west-facing, functional west-facing array again that can pick up my afternoon sun and just hold on to that sun later in the day so that I have an extended solar day again. But was kind of surprised to see how much power this actually still put out, given that there's so much damage to this panel. So that probably means we're still actually making a little bit of power from the broken solar panel despite all the damage. So interesting that is still producing not its full amount of power, but I got a few hundred watts off of this thing. So these two panels still good. Gonna put these together in series, and we're going to connect this back up facing west so that I get my west facing array back. And this is just to extend my solar day a couple of hours in either direction, in the morning and in the nighttime, so that I just get a little bit longer solar day. One of my neighbors going by. So that's the plan. So I just came out this morning after shutting off the breaker so that I could disconnect the power from this guy and then disconnect all these panels, pull them off, and then I'll start building the new rack. So I'm gonna turn the camera off and I'm gonna take some stuff apart, and I will bring you guys back when I'm further along in the project. Alright, so I got all these connectors disconnected. These are a real pain in the ass when you don't have the right tool. What I ended up doing is using a pair of needle nose pliers to pull them apart. I just squeezed here and wiggled and struggled until they came apart. And most of them came apart. I did break one, so I got one bad one here now. So that you can see the connector is still on the panel here, so I'm still going to have to get this one apart. But these things are a major pain when you don't have the right tool, and I have no idea what I did with the tool. It's not where it's supposed to be, so I just had to struggle with it until I broke one and got the rest of them disconnected. So I'm going to go ahead and get this panel, this is the broken one, off of here. Then I'm going to have to go get a new connector. I think I have one in the house, and put it on this cable that goes into the charge controller. And then I'm going to start disassembling this thing and figure out what to do about a new way to mount these panels. Alright, so I've got it pretty much apart. Got some pieces here I've got out of my scrap pile I'm going to try to use to build a new rack for this thing. I'm going to try and use this pole as a point to mount it to. So I figure if I use this piece here, maybe I can attach it to the top of the pole and then attach that to the remaining pieces of the rack. You can see I got the panels off, and you can see the damaged one. I got a little bit more damage on it taking it off, but we have these two fully intact panels to use, so hopefully that will go together okay. This pole, as I said, still pretty stable. I'm going to leave the guy wires on it so it will remain pretty solid, hopefully. And when I bolt hopefully this thing with this plate to here, and then maybe using some U-bolts on the pole there to attach it to the remaining rack pieces here. I'm going to leave this component as a brace to hold this together, and of course the panels themselves will form some of that structural integrity as well. So hopefully in the next, I don't know, hour or so, I'll have this back up on the pole and ready to put some panels on there, and hopefully we won't have any more issues with wind damage. Alright, so this is what I've come up with so far. I got this bar. It's not tight yet, but it's got a couple of holes through the post to mount this bracket. And I've put some pieces of pipe inside the square tube to reinforce it so it doesn't get crushed when I tighten these down. And then I will mount these guys to the post with some U-bolts. And these are a little light, so I'll probably upgrade these at some point to something a little bit heavier. But in the meantime, I think these will be able to mount these to it. I'll have to get some big washers in there. I'll stack of washers and mount that against this. This will remain my support in the middle, and then the panels will go on, and then that should be enough. So I'm going to continue on. All right, so I have assembled the new rack, and as you can see, I've got U-bolts, and like I say, these are a little lighter duty than I'd like, so I'm probably going to replace those. But I've got the bracket mounted to the top of the pole, and I've got the original rack set up, ready for the panels, and I've got this kind of setting on the ground, and I think that's how it's going to stay. Just going to let that end rest on the ground. And then the panels themselves are going to serve as part of the structure to provide the rigidity. But it is pretty strong as it stands. We've got this bolted up there pretty tight, and that's not going to move. I still have my guy wires on the pole, so that's going to be strong. And it is set in cement, so we should be pretty good there. So I think that is the way I'm going to set this up. So now I just have to get the panels mounted and connected back up. And of course, I'm only going to have the two remaining intact panels to use here. So it will only be 400 watts as opposed to the 600 that it had before. But I should be able to get that set up before the end of the day, before the sun heads over into the west to strike these panels. And in the meantime, I'm still making power on my east array. So I'm going to go take a break, and then I'm going to come back out and set these panels up, and then I'll be done. I have one more thing to do with the wire. I gotta replace the end that got pulled off of this wire when I was trying to disassemble. The one on the positive side stayed intact, but the one on the negative side I ended up pulling off. So I think I have more of those guys, and I will go ahead and do that pretty soon as well. But for right now, I'm going to get out of the flies for a little bit and go inside. All right, so it's not even 10:30 yet in the morning, so it looks like I succeeded in getting this thing set up before the afternoon sun. This is finished product for my now 400 watt array facing west. And you can see she's angled a little bit towards the south, which is not as good in the summertime because the sun's going to be a little bit further north. But this is mainly for the wintertime anyway, so that's okay because the sun will be a little bit further south. So that's fine. That'll work out just fine. I still haven't got the wiring done, but that's no big deal. I just have to get this connector off of this side and put a new connector on here, and then I can hook that back up, and then I can connect it back up over here to get it back powered. I get it back connected to the system. So this is it. This is how it's going to be. And I've got everything solid here. The pole is pretty strong. I'll go ahead and tighten these turnbuckles down a little bit so that take up any additional slack. But that seems pretty solid. I probably will replace the U-bolts with something a little heavier duty. I'll pick something up when I go into town later today. And you can See, she's also a little bit angled here. That's okay. It's still pretty solid. So I think that is going to do it. And she is pretty solid. So that should survive any wind gusts in the future, hopefully. We won't have this problem again. Now we are down to 400 watts facing west rather than 6. But she's actually at a little bit steeper angle, which is actually probably good. Closer to the angle that the East array is on, which is still in the sun and making power. Although I'm guessing by now my batteries are probably full, so we're maybe not making much power anymore. And we got no wind. Wind turbine sitting still right there. But yeah, that's it. That's the final product. That's what we're going to have for my west-facing array to hold on to that afternoon sun a little bit longer at the end of my day. So that's going to be it, and saying goodbye to the 200 watt panel that was sacrificed in the wind to the wind gods. So that's going to wrap us up.